Snow cracked beneath the boots of former U.S. Army soldier Jake Carter as he moved through the narrow backstreets of his quiet hometown. At his side walked Shadow, his retired military K-9 partner, silent, alert, and loyal. Their nightly patrols had become a ritual, a way for both man and dog to keep old memories at bay. Yet something about this night felt wrong. The cold was sharper, the darkness heavier. Even the air seemed tense, as if warning them to turn back. Shadow stopped abruptly. His body went rigid, ears pinned forward, a low growl rumbling deep in his chest. Without warning, he lunged into the shadows. "Shadow, hail!" Jake shouted, breaking into a run. The dog's focus pulled Jake toward a brick wall at the far end of the alley. When Jake saw what lay there, his stomach dropped. Two figures were slumped against the wall, partially buried beneath fresh snow. Their hands were bound behind their backs, legs tied tight, mouths gagged. At first glance, they looked lifeless, until Jake noticed the faint rise and fall of their chests. Yellow lettering on their jackets caught the dim light. FBI. Jake knelt beside them, ripping off his gloves. Their skin was icy, lips tinged blue, white foam clinging to the corners of their mouths. He knew the signs immediately. Poison. They weren't unconscious. They were dying. Shadow barked sharply, circling the agents in frantic loops, urging Jake to move faster. Jake checked their pulses, weak, fading. Time was slipping away, and the freezing air was stealing what little strength they had left. "Stay with me," Jake muttered as he pulled out his knife and sliced through the ropes. He worked fast, freeing their wrists and ankles, easing the cloth from their mouths without disturbing the toxic residue. One agent sagged forward, his breathing suddenly stopping. "No, don't do this," Jake whispered. He immediately began chest compressions, counting under his breath. Shadow barked wildly, panic echoing off the alley walls. After several compressions, the agent convulsed and gasped, coughing violently as vomit mixed with snow. Jake steadied him. "That's it. Keep breathing." He turned to the second agent, a woman, her pulse barely there. Jake wrapped his scarf tightly around her torso, trying to preserve every bit of warmth. That's when something fell from the male agent's jacket. A small metallic object landed in the snow, blinking red. A tracker. Jake stared at it, dread settling in his chest. Whoever had done this hadn't just abandoned the agents. They were being watched. Hours later, harsh fluorescent lights burned Jake's tired eyes as he sat in a hospital interview room. Shadow lay curled at his feet, never fully relaxing. Doctors fought to stabilize the poisoned agents while 3 FBI officials questioned Jake, their expressions guarded. "So you're saying you just happened to find them?" the lead agent asked skeptically. "My dog alerted," Jake replied evenly. "He led me straight to them." The agent scribbled notes, unconvinced. Shadow suddenly stood, muscles tense, a deep growl vibrating from his chest as his eyes locked onto one man standing silently in the corner, a supervisor who hadn't spoken once. Jake noticed immediately. Shadow doesn't growl without reason. The supervisor forced a thin smile. "Dogs make mistakes. Military K-9s don't," Jake said flatly. Moments later, a doctor entered with cautious optimism. The agents were stable and wanted to talk. The female agent's voice trembled as she spoke. "We were set up. Someone inside the bureau sold us out." The words hit Jake like a blow. This wasn't random. It was betrayal. Jake didn't wait for permission. He returned to the alley with Shadow before dawn. Snow had erased most physical traces, but Shadow didn't rely on footprints. He followed scent alone, leading Jake to a dumpster at the far end of the passageway. Shadow barked once and scratched furiously. Behind the bin, Jake found a sealed plastic pouch. Inside were a vial matching the poison used on the agents, a burner phone, a folded map marked with an X on an abandoned warehouse, and a list of FBI names. 2 were crossed out, the agents Jake had saved. Shadow growled again, pulling Jake toward a second hiding place near a drain pipe. Wedged between bricks was another tracker, identical to the first. Someone had been monitoring everything. Someone close. Someone who expected those agents to die. By dusk, Jake stood outside the abandoned warehouse. Shadow moved ahead, every muscle coiled, alert. Inside, voices echoed between stacks of crates. They weren't supposed to survive, one man whispered. We finish it tonight, another replied. Jake recognized the voice instantly, the same FBI supervisor Shadow had singled out earlier. Jake raised 2 fingers. Shadow exploded into action. The warehouse erupted into chaos. Shadow tackled one man as Jake took down the other. The supervisor bolted for the exit, but outside, Shadow slammed into him, sending him crashing into the snow. Jake pinned him down, wrenching his hands behind his back. You tried to kill your own people, he snarled. Red and blue lights soon flooded the scene as FBI units swarmed the area. The traitor was dragged away, shouting excuses no one listened to. The rescued agents arrived to identify him. When they saw Jake and Shadow, gratitude filled their eyes. You saved us, the woman whispered. Jake shook his head. Shadow did. I just followed. Shadow wagged his tail softly. Days later, the FBI uncovered a massive internal conspiracy. An insider had been feeding criminals classified information and eliminating anyone who got too close. Thanks to Jake and Shadow, the entire operation collapsed. At a quiet ceremony behind the field office, the FBI director pinned a silver medal to Shadow's harness for exceptional courage and saving federal lives. Applause echoed as Shadow barked proudly. Then the director turned to Jake. We'd like you to work with us as a consultant. Jake glanced down at Shadow. The dog met his gaze, steady and ready. Jake nodded. All right, we're in.